Hey everyone, welcome to Murder at the Round Table. I'm Ipsha,
Hello, hello. I am Raf.
and oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say it's been such a long time.
It has been, yeah. We're not in practice.
Yeah, just getting back into the sync.
I was gonna say we're normally joined by our co host Tom, but he's not here today. He's doing other things. He'll definitely be back to share what he's been up to in the next episode. But for today, it is just us.
Yeah, yeah, just the two of us.
This is exciting because technically this is season number 2. We left season number 1 with the 3 episodes that we were able to upload onto YouTube, but we're actually going to try season 2 to be on Spotify and Apple Podcast and other podcast platforms to grow the murder family a little bit more. And we're excited because this episode, technically we're pre-recording it, but it's going to be out for Pride Month.
Yeah, always. It's always an interesting time. Mostly because you always see like a bunch of companies all of a sudden just pop out of nowhere, waving flags and providing support, and it's like, well, where were you the rest of the year? But yeah, I'm very excited for this Pride Month, honestly. I'll finally be in town with my best buds here.
Yes.
Wherever that may be. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm excited because like normally I'm in school and I know the institution that I went to, they do have little like activities, they have parades. They have something, I think it's a parade across the institution. It's just that I never was able to participate because during the time that they did the parade, it was during my class time. So I'm really excited. I hope we get to do something together depending on like we said, it's pre-recorded, so I don't know. I don't know exactly what kind of activities that might be available to us. Do you, since it's been a while, do you want to tell everyone what you've been up to?
Yeah. So as I kind of mentioned earlier before, I recently made a move back to the nondescript city that we live in. And
Yes.
it's been pretty great, gotten a chance to see a lot of people in person and such. And a lot of times you hear about, people moving away from home, going off
Mm-hmm.
to do whatever in the ether, but you never hear the stories about people coming back, like you've gone off, you've done your thing, and
Yeah.
now you're coming back either temporarily or for a long time. And I'm just putting it out there for everyone, like it's totally okay, especially with the market we have right now, the economy, inflation and all that fun stuff. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely makes
So,
sense,
yeah.
if you're ever thinking about like, hey, maybe I'll just come back, and you're living your life, and wherever that takes you, whether out there or back home, and it all works out in the end. But yeah,
Well, there you go. You got some first-hand perspective.
I guess so, yeah.
No, but it's actually great to have you back. And like, it's called Murder at the Round Table. We actually have never hosted this show together in person. So maybe one of these days we could actually record at one table, like on the same table, regardless of the shape.
Should we do a face reveal?
You want to do a face reveal? I'm not
No.
ready for a face reveal today.
No, not today. No way. But like, let us know in the comments if we should do a face reveal. Maybe if there's enough interest, but probably not. Just putting it out there. But like, it would be interesting to know how many people are wondering, or if
Want to know what are her faces look like?
yeah, or if y'all just want to like draw something out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen like a lot of channels like that where people who like listen in will like draw out how they think everyone looks, and it'd be pretty sick to receive some of those.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I also want to say that our Murder at the Podcast, Murder at the Round Table family is actually growing because now we have additional member. Her name is Neha. So
Mhm.
my friend is joining this podcast and I asked her if she would want to edit. So she's not here today with us. She might pop in at some point, and I know she's excited to make blooper videos. Or not videos, just blooper audios, and I'm thinking to post those onto TikTok because TikTok gets a lot of views.
In general, yeah, I agree. TikTok does get a lot of views, and it would be kind of nice to have some blooper videos. Even in this recording itself, I've already stumbled a bit that would definitely
Oh,
make
yeah.
some good blooper content.
So, a segment that I did want to start, and we talked about
Mhm.
it, was recommendations. And these could be recommendations for anything. So, do you have any recommendations, Raf?
I actually do, and maybe it's pandering to the more popular recommendations or shows and such, but if anyone has yet to watch Queen Charlotte, please do. We know the Bridgerton universe has, its own issues and such, but that show, man, 6 episodes brought me to tears. I'm telling you, I'm sitting there watching this, the whole thing, and I'm like, why do I even bother with online dating? That is nothing compared to this love story I'm seeing in front of me right now. Like, give me that in my life, okay?
Oh boy. I where did you watch it? Because I haven't seen it yet.
Netflix. It's a prequel to the Bridgerton seasons. A story surrounding
Okay.
just Queen Charlotte herself, like how she met George, how the whole situation started that created the conditions in Bridgerton, I guess would be the best way to put it. But yeah, that's one thing I'd actually put out there as a recommendation. What about yourself?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
podcasts. Usually when I'm like at work, I work in my own office alone. It's in a pretty isolated part of the building. So I kind of just turn on a podcast, and I kind of want to give out a shout out to a Canadian podcast I've been listening to, Unsolved Canadian Mysteries.
Okay.
It's so fun, and they've done so many unsolved, not like just cases, but also like paranormal
Mm-hmm.
stuff within Canada. I think it's very interesting, and definitely they've inspired me to tell more Canadian stories. So today we'll hear one of them, but I definitely want to put out more Canadian stuff.
Nash, I hear
I haven't heard a lot of like Canadian, unless it's like the really famously like known serial killers. I haven't heard a lot of, Canadian stories. So it's kind of our responsibility, I guess, to tell those stories because we live in
you.
that
Yeah,
wonderful
exactly.
country.
And I think maybe we're I don't know if we if I really should be saying this, but I think maybe we're just too good at it. We're just too good at it. So
Yeah.
that's why no one's ever caught. It's always kept secret. You never hear anything about it.
Well, maybe I'm gonna be sharing one of those
Hmm.
secrets, or well, a few of those secrets hidden in our history, Canadian history.
Oh,
Such nice
yeah,
people down here. Hey.
I heard something really interesting the other day about this was just somebody who travels a lot, and they'd kind of brought up the fact that Canadians
Mm-hmm.
are we're very soft on the outside, very hard on the inside, almost like an inverse relationship
Right.
to I believe at the time they said Danish people who are hard on the outside but very, very soft on the inside. Yeah,
Very
exactly.
soft on
And
the
I
inside.
don't know. I just
Yeah.
I found it just really interesting.
Oh crap. Okay, so obviously Tom isn't here, but he has requested me this morning
All
to
right.
give a shout out to, oh my gosh, how did I forget? But he just messaged me, and I that's how I remember.
The
Where is
one and
it?
only Daddy Pattinson.
It is Robert Pattinson's
37th, I
34th
think.
birthday? 37th birthday. Where is that message? I swear to God it's in here somewhere. Okay, here it is. He says, if you're still recording, you'll have to wish Daddy Robert Pattinson a happy 37th birthday. So
Oh.
happy 37th birthday, Robert Pattinson. I hope your day is
Oh
going
no.
very well.
If we keep going with these and going with the seasons, at some point we'll end up revisiting this episode and this shout out specifically.
Specifically, nobody else. If you have a birthday today, it doesn't matter. Sorry.
Um,
Okay. So, on to the case today. It has two
Hmm.
parts. The first part is kind of like the setup, and the second part is the life story of Everett George Klippert, who was the only person in Canada to ever be declared as a dangerous sexual offender and was sentenced to what would have been life in prison because
Oh,
he was gay. Yeah. Have you ever heard about him?
I'm trying to think. No, actually, this is the first time.
Okay, since we are celebrating Pride this month at the round table, I thought I would share a small portion of Canadian history on criminalization and decriminalization of homosexuality. And specifically, this first part that I said it was the setup is
Hmm.
laws on sodomy. So, sodomy, if you don't know, is oral or anal sex, and having these laws that restrict sodomy, it just made having sex difficult for men. And I'm saying men specifically because women weren't included in this law until much later in Canadian history. In fact, in the early years of Canada and colonization, when sodomy was like a legit problem. First of all, my I didn't state my sources, but my sources are the Canadian Encyclopedia and there's another website called the Eagle. So the Canadian Encyclopedia stated that, quote, sex between women was ignored. It was customary at that time, end quote. So women weren't included in these sodomy laws until much later. So how far do you think sodomy law can be traced back to in Canadian history?
Probably way before its inception, considering the term is coming from like what was it, Sodom and Gomorrah, like way back in the Bible. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm thinking this is probably an inheritance of like British laws, is what I'm suspecting. So pretty much from the inception.
You're not wrong. So on record, sodomy law can be traced
Hmm.
to colonial times. And in an article on the Eagle, it stated that sodomy laws were added into the Consolidated Statutes of Canada in 1869. It was added to the Criminal Code in
Hmm.
1892. So back in 1892, I believe a good chunk of Canada was mostly
Yep.
Roman Catholic, and a lot of the ideologies around criminalizing homosexuality was due to the Roman Catholic faith and what they believed in. So if you go trace that back, you're right, it goes down to the British history and it goes way back to 1533 when it was first passed by King Henry the Eighth. So not only did I think he gave us divorce, but he also passed sodomy laws.
Actually, kind of surprised that to me it almost sounds like that's later than I would have expected.
I'm sure I went even back, but I guess it might have been like on record
Okay,
starting.
or at least on record to trace back to what affects
Yeah,
or what if what affected Canada up until that point.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So let's go back to Canada. During 1869, people who did not really conform to heterosexual norms, they were pretty much viewed as sick, immoral, sinners, and a danger to society. And if anybody was caught doing any sort of act, they would be
Hmm.
punished, and it was punishable by death. However, in Canadian history, there was no record of people being executed for sodomy. Eventually, the laws kind of changed, and instead of like it being punishable by death, people were just imprisoned, whipped, or at that time sent to what was called a pillory. It was kind of like I drew a picture of it. I don't know why I drew a picture of it. It's a wooden structure where you have holes, one for the head. They would stick the head through the center hole and they would have holes for the hands. So you're kind of standing there with your head and hands inside a hole and that's it. You're just standing there. So the idea of this pillory thing is that you're kind of just displayed to the public, and its person would be publicly humiliated or even abused.
Yeah.
I mean, if you search up the picture, you'll probably understand what
Hmm.
I'm saying. Most known laws were enforced in the 1800s. So the first ever conviction of sodomy in Canada was in 1648. It involved a military drummer. He was found guilty of committing sodomy and was sentenced to death. However, was spared because Jesuits intervened, and he was transferred to Quebec City, where he was spared. But there was no second person that was charged with him. So that was kind of like the first
That went
ever
to court,
case.
anyways.
Yeah, that went to court. That was on record. So how common do you think sodomy convictions were?
Again, sorry, this is 1860 during the
Yeah, during like
1800s.
the 1800s.
Not, honestly, not that frequent. I hesitate to say. Unfortunately don't know too much. But considering like, you essentially have to be in the closet. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I wouldn't say that much. Yeah.
No, you're not wrong. You're absolutely on point. Sodomy convictions were very uncommon because it required like an eyewitness,
hmm
which wasn't always available. And if somebody was available, they wouldn't often be like, yeah, I saw it. So moving forward to 1890, due to public concern around sodomy and sodomists, the House of Commons introduced the gross indecency law. This gross indecency offense made it easier to charge people who committed sodomy. However, there was no specific definition to what
hmm
gross indecency meant. It was understood as any sort of attraction between men and there being motive to engage in sex. That was all. There was a lot of concern about how vague the concept was and the potential for law to misuse it due to the lack of clarity on the definition. So, David Mills, a member of parliament, raised concern about the lack of clarity because he was saying that it's kind of like difficult to legislate something that has more to
Yep.
do with sin and morality, and the fact that it's being punished so severely as well. People are being imprisoned for their life basically. So at this time, the punishment was to serve time in a penitentiary, but he's like, that's way too severe. This doesn't have to be that the bad. So he still's like, okay, whip them, that's fine, but don't,
hmm
it doesn't have to be that harsh. Following all this, men engaging in some sort of sexual relations, they were arrested. This included the activities in private and in their own homes. So, cases in 1955, police in Edmonton actually broke into people's houses to arrest men for having same-sex relationships. So, like I said, women weren't included in the Gross Indecency Act until much later, and it wouldn't be until 1953. Up until that point, they were allowed to have same-sex relationships with each other, and that was fine.
Is it that they were allowed to, or is it that it just wasn't pursued? Because I thought in that case it was still an issue.
So starting 1892, they believed it was customary for women to be in same-sex relationships.
Okay, that is new information.
But in 1953, that changed, and women were also included in the gross indecency law.
Okay, following.
The Canadian Encyclopedia stated that the Criminal Code SC 1953 to 54, C 51, S 149. So they said, quote, everyone who commits an act of gross indecency with another person is guilty of
Yep.
indictable offense and is liable to imprisonment for 5 years, end quote. So that was kind of like the law with sodomy, and I'll talk more about it in the second part of my case. So how are you feeling? So you just told me like there's some new things that
Yeah.
you've learned.
Definitely. So the sentiment is not that surprising. It's not new in that
Yeah.
sense. But I guess the timeline
Mm-hmm.
so far about like when certain laws were passed in Canada and like the actions following is new
Mm-hmm.
to me. What about you when you were, I guess, kind of like researching this? Did anything like stand out to you as being like, oh, that's it's not something that you expected, or it was pretty much the same?
Well, I was fully aware. I actually learned in one of my classes that I took this
Hmm.
past semester about sodomy. So I was kind of aware about like the passing of the law and the fact that it was called gross indecency and it didn't have like a particular specific definition. I was aware of that. The military drummer to be convicted of sodomy and how he was like saved by Jesuits so he could get a lesser
Hmm.
sentence. Those things were new to me. But I mean, I was fairly aware of this because, again, I took that course and I
Hmm.
learned a lot of it there. The women not being included until
Yeah.
1953 was definitely a surprise. To me, it was because like women weren't politically included. So whatever they choose to do behind closed doors, it was whatever as long as they're home and
Oh,
it's behind
okay, I
closed
see.
doors. Okay, so I am actually on part two where I'm going to be talking about
Hmm.
Everett George Klippert. And this is, like I said, he was the first person, or actually the only person in Canada to be ever declared as a dangerous sexual offender and was sentenced to what would have been life in prison because he was gay. So, a little bit of a background on Klippert. I keep on saying Kilper, Everett, I guess. Everett was born in Saskatchewan in 1926. He was the youngest among nine siblings, one older sister, and then he had eight brothers, including him. So Everett and his family moved to Calgary 2 years after he was born. The family lived for some time there, but in 1933, Everett's mother passed away from kidney disease. After the passing of his mother, the family moved again, but they remained in Calgary area. At this time, Everett's older sister, Leah, took over caring for the family and the eight younger brothers. For Everett, school was not really a priority. He was done school after like eighth grade. Everett's father operated a grocery store, so Everett and his older brothers worked there. After that, Everett worked at a local dairy before he became a bus driver. Everett was actually like a popular bus driver. People enjoyed having him as a bus driver. You know, you have those
Oh, I
favorite bus
remember my own
drivers.
as
I
well.
certainly have a favorite bus driver. For Everett, people actually waited for his bus. The time that they would take the bus, they would skip that just so they could ride with Everett. Everett's first trial was in 1960 when a father of a young man Everett had sex with asked police to investigate the situation. So on March 21st of the same year, Everett Klippert was taken into custody and was charged for, quote, contributing to the delinquency of a young boy, end quote. Bail was set to $500. I don't know like how much money that would be
Here,
worth
let me do
in
it now.
today's.
That would be equivalent to $5,124.
So yeah, so that's a lot. But hang on, there's more. However, the next day bail increased to $9,000 because the crown charged him for 17 more cases that were, quote, indecent assault of 17 young Calgary boys, end quote. What's 9,000
Um,
in today's
let's
money?
see, about $92,000.
So yeah, his bail would
Damn.
have been 92,000 today's. Do you want to take a guess how these 17 extra charges were discovered by the crown?
Actually, yeah, I don't know because at the time, didn't you have to be like present or something to bear witness or?
So these additional charges were actually made because Clippert kept a black
Oh,
book where he
no.
wrote his dating life and like the history of it and stuff. So police found that and then that's how he was charged. So when I was reading this, I was like, okay, so now it feels like there's a bigger problem because it says
Yeah.
17 quote young men, end quote. So like how old were they? It was illegal to just be gay and have gay sex, so there was no
Hmm.
age of consent for gay sex. So these ages never actually came into light. The Canadian Encyclopedia said that Everett's court record or any record did not include ages of the 17 young men, and in the future court proceedings for Klippert, there were no issues regarding age of the 17 young men he was with. So their ages actually never was identified, or it was never an issue.
Did it by any chance for yeah, and there's not really too much because if we knew those ages, then it does bring up a separate discussion. But did it outline what happened to the 17 other men? Because they were also as listed as being involved. So.
No, it never did. My goal was to read the affidavit
Mhm.
because apparently that's online and you can go through it. I never got the opportunity. Maybe it would have said something there, but in the articles that I've read, which again, I'm sorry for not stating, but it was the Canadian Encyclopedia and the
Yep.
eagle.ca, I think, or it might have been .com. I'm not sure. It's probably .ca.
Okay.
They never mentioned anything. And I think there were a few articles that I didn't use, but they were upset with the fact that he was involved with young men, but the ages of these young men were not indicated into the articles at all.
Okay. I guess yeah. That whole.
That's a bit frustrating for me too. The ages do matter, but again, gross indecency never had a specific
Mhm.
definition either. It was super vague, it was not clear. So, for a moment, I thought they were actually trying to charge him of pedophilia, but the articles kept saying like age was never a concern.
Okay, and this was 1960. So age of majority had already been determined by then. And if they say like young men, especially at that point, that could definitely have included saying like, oh, they were in like their mid 20s or something.
Here's another thing. Maybe the affidavits say this again. I wish I read into that. It doesn't say like whether these relationships with these 17 young men happened at 30 over or if it was throughout time.
Oh,
You
okay.
know? It could have absolutely been consensual. Okay, so Kilbert's family did pay the bail amount on April 4th. They also had a reference letter from their church reverend, but Kilbert was kept in custody until the 14th because the Crown prosecutor adjusted the charges to 18 counts of gross indecency. Klippert pleaded guilty to all of them. Like he got the bail for having those relationships with the 17 young men, but now the Crown prosecutor found additional 18 charges to hold against him. Basically, the Crown found Klippert's history of going to boxing matches, going to wrestling matches, going to the swimming pool. I don't know if he was participating in these boxing and wrestling matches, but yeah, these were generally places where the Crown felt like he could have been in contact with young men or where he could have had relationships with them. So I don't know if they found anything being like, oh yeah, he met this person at a boxing match or a wrestling match, but he'd just go there on his free time.
Wait, wait, hold up. So it wasn't even like, oh yeah, we have detailed, 18 other people that you've, engaged with sexually. It's just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you went and hung out here and you were maybe nice or flirty to 18 different people. Like that level of that's
Yeah,
okay.
well, that was my understanding of it. Well, it doesn't, the articles never said if there was proof that there was something going on, like he was meeting people there. But it was just that he went to these places and then the Crown suspected him that he could have, like, been in
He
contact
could
with
have
young
been.
men at these places.
Oh my lord.
But he did plead guilty, and I'm not sure if he pleaded guilty because he just wanted to get it over with, or he just didn't want to live with
Okay.
that guilt, with that headache.
Of like always being, I guess maybe watched or followed or whatever.
Okay, so Next, his defense lawyer told the court that his psychiatric assessment found that his homosexual tendencies is from an unhappy childhood. The defense lawyer also said that Klippert he's been steadily employed since he was 16 and asked the judge to place him on probation. The judge sentenced Klippert to a 4-year jail sentence for each of the 18 charges. And then it said that the judge, so the article, the Canadian Encyclopedia, said that the judge or the Crown was being lenient because the sentence was to be served concurrently and instead of jail time being served consecutively, which would be more of a life sentence for Klippert. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Yeah, I was kind of wishy-washy with my understanding of it. I guess it's trying to say, like, they just didn't say, oh, he's just going to forever in jail. It's just like 4 years for each.
Yeah, so, which is still in of itself a technicality, a person only lives so long.
Yeah. So after serving his sentence, Klippert moved to the Northwest Territories. However, history would follow him there, and Klippert would be prosecuted in 1965 for the same activities. This time, he was labeled a dangerous sexual offender because he was repeating the offenses. This ruling was upheld by the Supreme Court of Canada in 1967. Klippert's case caused a bit of an uproar in Ottawa, and due to the Supreme Court's ruling of Klippert's case, Federal Justice Minister Pierre Trudeau introduced a bill that would legalize consensual homosexual sex. And in 1969, when Pierre Trudeau was Prime Minister, it was legalized. That was like kind of the decriminalization of this case, because I said I would talk about both. However, Klippert would not be released from prison until 1971. So he was still there for a bit. I'm going to come back to Everett Klippert, but I kind of want to do more of the Canadian history aspect of this case. So if you fast forward to 2016, Globe and Mail newspaper wrote about Klippert and his story. As a response, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was prepared to recommend the government to grant a pardon to Klippert and also pardon all the men who were convicted of gross indecency throughout Canadian history. However, in June of the same year, 2 reports, one from the Eagle.ca and one from another group called We Demand an Apology Network, said the government not only owed a pardon to all these people, but also a financial restitution and an apology to everyone who was persecuted and prosecuted because of their sexuality, including those in the military and public services. So I actually learned this in the course that I was taking, that in the 15 there was a homosexuality test. It was called the Fruit Machine. And maybe we will cover this. Maybe we'll cover this in a different episode, but it was to detect and find people in the military and public services for being gay or lesbian and remove them from their job. So I actually saw a YouTube video of this where one person was saying because they were found to be gay or lesbian, the person I think was gay. When they were being interrogated, they were being told that they were traitors to their country for being gay. So yeah, that's how they were being removed. And in November of 2017, Trudeau apologized in the House of Commons for the discrimination done by the federal government and its agencies against the LGBTQ2S people in Canada. The apology came with a $145 million in compensation, which included $110 million for civil servants, those whose careers suffered due to the gross indecency law or other discriminatory laws such as the Fruit Machine. So the last little bit is kind of on Everett Klippert. he, after coming out of his sentence, he lived a low-key life. He never actually affiliated with any sort of LGBTQ community. He didn't fight for what was done to him and the injustices. He did, however, marry a friend, Dorothy Hagstorm, and then he passed away of kidney disease in 1996. So that was my case of sodomy laws and Everett, Georgia.
I definitely learned a lot from this. I was like, great presentation actually. Um,
Thank you. I feel like I could have done a lot more because, yeah, I really wanted to read that
mhm.
affidavit and then
Well,
talk about it, but I never got the time.
something we could always do is we could always do like follow-up episodes. Not necessarily like the full episode is about like is a
Oh,
follow-up,
yeah,
but
for
rather
sure.
is a
Yeah.
portion is like just adding, a bit more. Because a lot of times, even when cases are solved or situations are concluded or whatever, there's always a continuation, there's always new things that you learn.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we'll definitely come back to this one. Maybe we'll find more things about like the people involved. Like maybe there's an article actually out there about the ages of the 17 young men. And who knows, like maybe they were charged. But yeah, I definitely want to read the affidavit and come back
Yeah.
with more
Yeah, I
information.
don't think I've necessarily too much to add in this case. It's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, for most
Yeah.
Canadians who has known the history, or like even people who have researched, Canada and its laws know this information. So, yeah, there were different like tidbits where I'm like, oh, this is something new. This I didn't
hmm
know. The fruit machine, when I first heard about it in class, was shocking to me.
Okay, so I don't know how this sounds, but is that where the term being fruity comes from?
Maybe.
Like, because I'm pretty sure fruit or fruity is slang, and well, really, it's more of a slur
Mm-hmm.
for gay men, and it's been used in that sense.
Yeah.
So, does it come from this, or did the slur come first, and then they're like, oh, hey, this is what we can call it?
That I think is info for another episode because the fruit machine, in what I know about it, it could be its own independent episode for sure.
Oh, okay, okay.
It actually the whole fruit machine did start after women were included in the Gross Indecency Act.
Okay.
But thank you for listening to my case. I finished it last. Well, I actually finished it an hour before we even recorded. I last night I was like, okay, I'm getting really tired. I'm just gonna wake up tomorrow and do it. But I didn't have like a lot. I just had to write the end of like Everett Klippert's life, like him outside of his sentencing. And then I also this morning, and I'm kind of happy I did because I actually found the article about like the 2016 Globe and Mail article and how Justin Trudeau, like what he did like for pardoning and restitutions and stuff. So I'm kind of happy I did
Yeah, I,
that.
I was just laughing because I was in a very similar situation, except I did not finish my script for today.
It's all good. Yeah, you can do the extra, the outro,
Oh man, do I even remember?
unless you
Well,
want
yeah,
to.
no, for sure. I don't even remember what our outro used to be. Yikes.
I didn't even know what the intro was. I'm like,
Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to wing it.
new season, new
Exactly.
outro.
Actually, yeah, that's perfect. New season, new outro. Thank you again. Thank you everyone for listening today. It has been a pleasure. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, share on all the socials, engage, make us famous. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yes,
But, low key. Send us artwork. Want
low
to know what you
key.
guys
Send us
think we look
artwork.
like. But yeah, till next time. Hopefully we'll be uploading some more and welcome you to I guess
Yeah.
season 2. Ciao.
Bye.